Some people become legends after they're gone. Nelson Mandela was a legend while still alive. He was more than a politician. He was a symbol of forgiveness. After 27 years in prison, Mandela chose peace over revenge. He walked out with an open hand, building a future for all. Mandela's life shows us that forgiveness is the ultimate strength. His legacy calls us to unite, forgive, and believe in the good of humanity. That's why Mandela is more than just a man. He's a symbol for us all. Before he was a global icon, Mandela was a boy named Rolihlahla, troublemaker, in rural South Africa. He grew up hearing stories of freedom, which planted a dream of equality in his heart. The South Africa he was born into was divided, but apartheid made it law. Where you lived, worked and loved depended on your skin color. Black South Africans were stripped of rights, forced into homelands, and needed passes to move. Mandela, the first in his family to attend school, saw the injustice firsthand as he studied law. Apartheid wasn't just unfair, it was designed to crush hope. For Mandela, the fight for equality became personal. He couldn't stand by while his people suffered. The seeds of rebellion, planted by his elders' stories, began to grow. Mandela was ready to challenge the system that tried to define his destiny. Mandela's anger at injustice turned into action in Johannesburg, where he joined the African National Congress. The ANC started with peaceful protests, but the government ignored them and tightened apartheid's grip. Mandela and other young leaders formed the ANC Youth League, pushing for boycotts, strikes and civil disobedience. They encouraged people to burn passbooks and defy unjust laws. Mandela became a powerful leader, inspiring thousands across the country. He wasn't fighting against white people, but against a system of white supremacy. His vision was a non-racial democracy, freedom for all, not just some. For Mandela, this was a moral struggle, not just a political one. He wanted a South Africa where children were judged by character, not colour. The fight was for the soul of the nation. Mandela's leadership made the movement impossible to ignore. He risked everything for justice and equality. The troublemaker had become a revolutionary. As Mandela's influence grew, the government tried to silence him, banning, surveilling and isolating him. But ideas can't be silenced. The more they tried, the stronger the movement became. The Sharpeville massacre in 1960 changed everything. Peaceful protest wasn't enough. The ANC was banned, and Mandela helped form its armed wing, Umkhonto we Sizwe. He became a fugitive, living in disguise, always one step ahead. Mandela travelled abroad for support, risking his life for the cause. In 1962, he was captured, possibly with CIA help, and sentenced to prison. But the government wanted more. After finding evidence of sabotage, they put Mandela and others on trial for their lives. The charge was treason, the penalty, death. Mandela's fight for freedom had led him to the brink. The world was watching as he faced the ultimate test. Even in chains, his voice echoed for justice. The struggle was far from over. The Rivonia trial was a global spectacle. Mandela used the courtroom to put apartheid on trial, declaring his willingness to die for freedom. Sentenced to life on Robben Island, Mandela endured brutal conditions, but his resolve only grew. The lion was caged, but not conquered. Life on Robben Island was harsh. Hard labour, cold nights, and constant humiliation. But Mandela and his comrades turned prison into a university, teaching each other and even the guards. Mandela learned Afrikaans to understand his oppressors, believing that understanding was the first step to peace. He became a father figure, insisting on dignity and discipline. Even the guards respected his strength. Prison forged his leadership and deepened his commitment to forgiveness. Mandela realized that true freedom meant freeing both the oppressed and the oppressor. He knew South Africa's future couldn't be built on revenge. In his cell, he prepared to forgive those who stole decades of his life. Mandela's greatest weapon became peace itself. By the late 1980s, global pressure and internal unrest made apartheid unsustainable. The government, led by F.W. de Klerk, began secret talks with Mandela. He refused conditional freedom, demanding the unbanning of the ANC and release of all political prisoners. In 1990, de Klerk relented. Mandela was released after 27 years. His walk to freedom was a turning point for South Africa and the world. Mandela chose reconciliation over revenge. In his first speech, he called for peace and unity. He calmed a nation on the brink. Mandela's release was the dawn of a new era. The years before South Africa's first democratic election were tense and violent. Mandela and de Klerk steered the country through perilous negotiations, earning the Nobel Peace Prize. In 1994, South Africans of all races voted for the first time. Mandela became the nation's first black president. At his inauguration, he declared an end to oppression. Mandela's challenge was to unite a divided country. He used the 1995 Rugby World Cup to bring people together, donning the Springbok jersey in a powerful gesture of unity. He established the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, offering amnesty for truth instead of punishment. The process was painful but healing, allowing the nation to confront its past. Mandela chose truth over vengeance, setting a foundation for the future. His leadership turned a fractured country into the Rainbow Nation. South Africa began to heal, one story at a time. Mandela served one term as president, then stepped aside, believing in the power of passing the torch. As Madiba, he became a global advocate for peace and justice, fighting poverty and HIV/AIDS. His legacy isn't just in laws, but in the hearts of millions. South Africa still faces challenges, but Mandela gave it a foundation of hope and democracy. He showed the world what's possible when we choose forgiveness over revenge. Mandela's story is a lesson in courage, resilience, and the power of reconciliation. He reminds us that one person's commitment can change the world. His final lesson: don't just admire, act. We can all choose courage, stand up to injustice, and practice forgiveness. Mandela's long walk to freedom is over, but our journey, inspired by him, continues.